Hi guys, it's Arielle. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you guys are all doing well, today is the first podcast back in Paris. I got back from Greece a little over a week ago, and obviously it's been amazing to come back home, to see Jean, to get back into my routine, to go to my sports classes and see my basketball team and cook in my kitchen and not have to rely on a bus or a car to get my groceries. All of that is just amazing. And I love being back as well for the holidays. I think Paris is a lovely city to spend Christmas in. That being said, though, it's definitely very shocking to go from the culture and the climate of Crete back to Paris, especially when I spend so much time in Crete. Like I spent a month there. And so, you form relationships with people and you find new habits that you really enjoy. And so it's hard to leave all of that and come back to reality, which is Paris. And every time I go to Crete, I just become more and more attached to the island and the people. And I think as well, I understand myself better and I learn more about what I want for myself and for Jean and like my potential future family. In the future, I could really see myself, moving to and living in Crete. And I say that about a lot of places: Italy, Toronto, Paris, Crete. But there definitely is something about the culture in Crete that really resonates with me. What I mean by that is Paris is a really big city. It's a tourist dense city. So you very often find yourself and other people like running around all the time. Everybody is so stressed. And I think because of that, because it's such a stressful city, I think that people are less inclined to focus on community, to search out community. And that's something that I really miss. And I don't realize that I miss it until I travel to a place like Crete. And it's not a France thing. It's definitely a Paris thing to... I think Paris is a very individualistic culture, if I'm being honest. I really do think that the high stress environment sort of forces people in a way to close in on themselves and their families. And people are a lot less open. People are, just a lot less inclined, I think, to form community and to support each other than you are in a place like Crete or in Irapitra, where I was staying on the east side of the island. And one thing that I really observed like constantly during my time on Crete, and I say Crete and not just Irapitra because I actually did a road trip this time across the entire island, and the characteristics of Cretians really is across the entire island. Like it's not isolated to one part of the island. Generally speaking, people are incredibly kind, incredibly empathetic. They are very focused on community and on nature, and I say this all the time. I'll never stop saying it because I'm so grateful for it, but I have no connection to Crete. I have no family there. Before I started going there regularly and for long periods of time, I didn't have any friends there. People had no obligation, to integrate me into their communities, to make me feel welcome, to speak English to me because I don't speak Greek. Like, people did that out of their own kindness of their hearts, and people opened their doors to me, opened their culture to me, took their time to explain things to me. And like, I will forever be grateful for that. And I don't feel that same warmth in a place like Paris or even France, to be honest. I really do feel like the Greek culture and the Cretan culture is much more warm and welcoming. But one thing that I really resonate with is this sense of community and support that people have for each other, whether you're going to dinner, whether you're working in the fields, whether you're, spending time at the olive press. People are helping each other, people are supporting each other, and people are enjoying time with each other. There's a real effort to make time for other people and time for community that I don't feel in Paris. You might have seen the video that I put out called A Song in Crete. And I really wanted to show in that video this sense of community. Like, one day after everybody was working, we all came together in a little house in Episcopi, and we had dinner and we had wine and conversation, and we were preparing olives, and a couple of the people brought instruments and they were singing and playing music. And it was just this beautiful moment that we all shared. And it wasn't like a special evening. That type of coming together and enjoying each other's company is very common, and I really wanted to show that in that video. And it's not just coming together, but it's also this appreciation of nature, working with nature to provide for yourself, to provide for your community. I'm obviously spending time in a very farmer dense community, but there definitely is this sense of cultivating what you can, cherishing what nature gives you, and bringing what you have to share with others. I really found like there was this unique economy. I mean, not unique, but very different economy than what I'm used to in a city like Toronto or a city like Paris, where if you need something, you just go to the store and you buy it. You don't try and make it yourself. You don't ask your neighbor for help, and your neighbor doesn't offer help, where it is just totally the opposite in Crete. Like, people are constantly trying to help each other. If I have something that you don't have, I share that with you. If you have something that I don't have, you share with me. People are, providing labor, helping each other in the fields, or providing the honey that they have in their beehives, or the olive oil that they collect and press. It's just this, it's almost like a barter system, I want to say, or like a trading system where people are just relying on community and helping their communities. And it's this beautiful circle, and it's something that I really enjoy, especially the appreciation for nature and for, helping each other. That's something that I always strive for. It's something that I genuinely want for myself in my future. So yes, globally, I had a really great time on Crete, and it's always a little bit hard coming back because I do miss especially the people. And this time around, I not only solidified friendships that I had created last time around, but I made new friends, and I learned new ways of life. I have new ideas. It was not only was it obviously great because I got to film interesting things, but it was also really great for me to be able to learn from other people and speak with other people as well. In particular, you guys know that I had a roommate, Sophie. Her and I became really close, and I think that's for a lot of reasons. Like, obviously, when you're roommates, you are sharing a small space together, and if you're compatible, I think that you can build a strong bond very fast. And Sophie and I forget how she said it because she said it in French, but we're not the same person, obviously, but we are very similar. The same but different, something like that. And it was one of the rare times, I think, in my adulthood where I met another woman and I just felt a form of connection and friendship that wasn't superficial. I think a lot of the times in Paris when I'm meeting new people, it can feel superficial. It can feel like you're not really a perfect match. Like, you're good friends, but you're not, it's hard to get to that deeper level of friendship. And I really felt that with Sophie. And when we separated, I mean, even the bus, we took the bus to get back because I had to go to Heraklion to the airport and Sophie had to go to Heraklion to take the bus back to Athens. It was such a hard bus ride. We were both so sad to leave the friends that we made and the connections that we made in Irapetra, but also very sad to leave each other. And I texted her as soon as I landed, and I was like, Sophie, I hope we stay friends for life. Like, I just so appreciate who she is as a person, and I love everything about her, and not just her, but also her family, because in Greece, I don't know if I've properly explained it, but George is part of an association of other olive farmers in Irapatra in the east end of the island. And they have connections to similar associations in France, in Normandy. And Sophie's parents are part of an association in Normandy that works with the Association of Farmers in Irapatra. And so this was the first time, like, Sophie's parents were coming to visit the farmers and, the association. They've become friends, And so this was the first time that I was meeting Sophie and her parents. And I just really got along incredibly well with them. Like, again, they were just so welcoming to me. I don't have a driver's license. I don't have a car. I don't have family there. And so, they made room for me on their trip. They, drove me in their car. They picked me up. They made sure I felt included. And I don't know, I just really felt connected to Sophie and her family, and also that we had very similar ideas. And so I'm very excited about this friendship that I've made, not just with Sophie, but with her parents. And I can't wait to go visit them in Normandy. I'm very excited. So yeah, it was a wonderful trip. I met some wonderful people. I strengthened relationships, but it was not all roses, okay? I don't even know how to talk about it because I don't really want to go into details, but there was definitely a lot of speed bumps on this trip. It did not go as planned, and in the end, there was a very dark, very hateful moment that I experienced with someone that I thought I was very close to. And I don't want to give names. I don't want to go into a lot of detail, a lot of specific detail, for a couple reasons. Like, number one, it's not my dirty laundry to air. I used to really love doing story times and venting and stuff, but, I think I just realized over time that that's just not good energy. I don't want to put that out into the world. And I certainly don't want to spend my time speaking ill of people. Like, if I've had a bad experience, if I've learned something new about someone's character that is dark or concerning, like, I feel like I've learned that lesson and I don't need to blast it on the internet. I think that's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I'm going to tread lightly when I talk about this, but there was definitely a very, I almost want to use the word sinister, but a very dark moment. And it was especially dark. I mean, I think you guys maybe, again, I didn't talk a lot about it, but in my last podcast when I was filming in Greece, I said, things are different. And I didn't really explain why things are different. And I'm not ready to, but things were different. And just over time, it accumulated into this really scary moment. And thankfully, I wasn't alone during this moment. There were other farmers. There was Sophie. And I don't want to say thankfully because it means that other people were impacted by this moment. But I think all of us, because we spoke about it after, I think we were all relieved in a sense to have had other people present, to not just have witnesses of the moment, but to also have people who were equally as shocked, who were equally as hurt and confused, and be able to talk about it after. So because of what happened over the course of the month, and specifically with this person and this incident, I didn't exactly film what I came to film in Irapatra and on Crete. So that's why I've been releasing these little vlogs. I have a couple more to come. Hopefully you guys are still interested in them. But I never got to film the big video that I wanted to film, which definitely is unfortunate. But as I've said, it wasn't like a waste of a trip. I still filmed a lot of great videos, and I met a lot of people, and I learned a lot, and I was able to think a lot. And in the end, a lot of good came from a situation that also caused a lot of pain. And I think what I wanted to talk about more specifically is encountering a real narcissist. Because in my opinion, again, this is all my opinion, this is all my feelings, this is my interpretation of the situation. I feel like I have encountered a narcissist. And this is not the first time, this is the second time that I've come across someone like this. And I feel like, gosh, this story is so hard to tell, but I feel like I'm someone who is susceptible to being a victim of narcissism because generally speaking, oh my gosh, sorry, there's a fly like coming back and forth. But generally speaking, I hope you guys can gather this from me, that, as I've said, I am someone who's focused on community, on helping other people. If I can help someone, I 100% will. Like, I know my heart, I know who I am as a person, and I'm always someone that's going to want to lend a helping hand when I can. I love to see other people happy. I love to see other people thrive. Yeah, I think that's a part of my character. But what that means is I do believe that I'm maybe more susceptible to a narcissist who wants to use and manipulate other people to reach their own goals and, use me and other like-minded people like me for their own means. And I think now that this is the second time that this has happened, again, life is a learning process. I'm learning more about the types of people that I should be more cautious of and what the red flags are, because you'll really be able to understand this if you yourself have encountered a narcissist. But it is the most confusing situation that you will ever live. Like the very first time that I met a narcissist, it was a romantic situation. I was lost. I was confused. I was so upset. And it was like the way that it works when you're dealing with a narcissist is that your life is a constant roller coaster with huge peaks, but with the biggest lows, because the way it works is they, build you up in a way. They give you hope. They give you small amounts of reassurance and small amounts of care and attention, and then like they drop you down to nothing. They make you feel like nothing. They make you feel like you've done something wrong or you're the problem, you're a bad person, and you're so confused because you went from such a high to such a low. And that's what keeps you in the circle with a narcissist, is that you're always trying to get back to the high, and you always have hope that things will get better and they'll stop hurting you and they'll stop acting the way that they are, and you can make them a better person and things can be better. But what I found through my first experience, like the romantic relationship, I did so much research because I was honestly so confused, because the first phase of meeting a narcissist is the love bombing. Like they are so attentive to you. They make you feel so special, so loved, so cared for. Like they really appreciate you and they enjoy spending time with you. And so you're getting all of this positive reinforcement. And then when you experience that first fall, it's like the floor has just come out from under your feet. You have no idea what's going on. And so it's just all very confusing, and it's really hard on your mental, on your heart. And I think what the hardest part for me to process is that number one, that you've been manipulated. Number two, that you're disposable. Because once someone who's narcissistic gets what they want from you, once they've sort of trapped you and locked you in through their love bombing, it feels like they throw you away, And that's a very hard feeling, especially for someone like myself. I become attached to people, and if I really like someone's personality, or at least what they show as their personality, if I really enjoy what someone is doing, like someone's project, whether that's a business or an association or, how they're spending their time, if I really resonate with how they're spending their time, I become not only connected to that person, but I feel like we have similarities. I feel like our relationship is strong. And to feel discarded is very upsetting. And the first time around that it happened, it took me a very long time to recover and to understand the loop that I was in. Eventually, I did get out of that narcissistic relationship. Because honestly, through all the research I found, like I started reading like articles and listening to psychologists talk about narcissism, and I realized that you really can't fix a narcissist. The only way to fix the situation is to leave it and to never speak to that person again. Because you really cannot fix narcissism. And you have this hope, right? Like when you're on the low, you have this hope that things will get better, that they will treat you better. And it's just never going to happen. Like it's just not possible with narcissism. I think it's because they don't feel empathy or emotions for other people. I mean, I'm not a psychologist. Again, all of this is just my opinion, my feeling, my experience, right? But anyways, the first time around, I really did realize that you can't change someone. And the only way that I was able to heal and move on was to completely cut that person, to not speak to them, to not answer their messages, and not to fall back into the loop. And so once I realized what was happening to me, obviously with the help of the other people who had felt the same way, things became clear. Like I looked back and I looked at how I was treated when the person needed something versus when I was hurt or sick. And you go back through all of your memories, and it just unravels, and you can see that you have been manipulated the whole time. And because this is the second time that I've experienced this, I know how to act. I don't have hope that things will get better. And so, I'm able to leave that situation. And not just that, but I don't put the blame on myself. Like, I think that also comes with age and experience and life experience, really, is that I know who I am at the core. I know where my heart is. I know what my intentions are. And I have respect for myself. And I will never let someone else speak to me in a way or treat me in a way that is completely void of respect. I'm a big fan of communication. I think that if there's something that's gone wrong, if there's a conflict, I have no problems like talking about how I feel, being very honest and being very open and receptive to what the other person is telling me. And so sorry, I think where I'm going with that is that this time around, I first tried by communicating how I felt and being very honest, open, and clear with what was wrong for me, and, trying to find a solution, trying to find understanding. And when I did that, the person who I believe is a narcissist made me feel like during that conversation I was heard, made me feel like we could both come back to how things were. And actually the next time that I saw them, it was just the same cold attitude. It was the low. It was the low moment after the peak. And I think it was then that it kind of clicked for me as well. But after this huge blowout, I was able to go back and look at everything. I realized who this person was, and it's much easier for me to cut the relationship because, like I said, I'm not going to tolerate being disrespected when I have nothing but good intentions, always. Like I'm always trying to help and care for and love other people, right? And so because I know my self-worth, as soon as I was disrespected, it was clear to me and I cut that off. So I'm sorry, that was a little bit rambly, but yes, essentially that was one of the biggest experiences and moments that I had. But I think the silver lining of this is that, as I was saying before, I think narcissists prey on people like myself who are so focused on community and support and, helping other people, that around this person, they had amassed all these different people like me who wanted community, who were searching for community. And when this incident happened, I think it allowed all of these people around the narcissist to connect. That's my silver lining of this, is that I was able to meet a lot of other people like myself with similar values and morals, and really realize who my real friends are and who the fake friends are. I think that's what I want to say. But I do just want to say, like, I think this experience really reminded me of, the dangers of meeting a narcissist, of trying to have a relationship or a friendship with a narcissist, and that if you find yourself in this type of situation where you're confused and you're in this loop and you don't know how to get out, and you don't know if it's your fault or their fault, and it just feels like it'll never end. Like, I hope you can hear this and that it's not your fault, and there is a way out, and there's better people in the world. And as much as it hurts to feel manipulated and to feel discarded, like, there's other people out there who will cherish and love you and appreciate you. And yeah, I think that's the lesson that I learned and that I want to share. And so while that was very tough, I did end the trip on a really wonderful note with a lot of farmers that I love and appreciate. And with Sophie, on our last night, we ended up going to dinner with one of my favorite people ever. His name is Yorgos Karalakis, and another farmer named Harris, who Karalakis you'll see in the next video that I have, because he very kindly gave us a tour of his olive mill. But Harris doesn't like to be on camera. He doesn't even like to be in photos. So I'm not going to share any photos of him. But those two and Sophie, and we just spent the night like laughing and having a really good dinner and being happy. It was a really happy last evening. And Sophie and I are already planning our next trip to Crete. I think we'll probably be back in April or May. Yorgos Karalakis, he is part of a new association that's really working on the hiking trails in this area called Salakanos, which is in the mountains. And yeah, I told him that Sophie and I can't wait to come back and we'll hike the trails with them. And it's, again, I'm just like very grateful for the people that I've met and for their kindness and for the joy that they bring to my life. So overall, it was wonderful. I'm sorry, that was a very long, very, very long introduction to this podcast. But globally, that's how my trip to Crete was. And like I said, I have a couple more vlogs, so hopefully you guys are still interested. Aside from Greece, when I got back to Paris, I had a couple of wonderful surprises. Jean rented a car. He picked me up from the airport. When I got home, I saw the amazing advent calendar that he handmade me. Like, this boy is crazy. Every day I really feel lucky that I have such an amazing partner. Like, I'm so grateful for Jean in every way, but he made me a beautiful advent calendar. I have to show you guys a picture on screen, and it's so cool because for every day he wrote a little clue, and I have to find the answer of the clue to find a little coin, and then I get the gift that goes with the clue. And yes, it's so cool. Ladies, if he wanted to, he would. And then also, it was Jean's birthday. He turned the big 29, and I decided to throw him a little party. Another one of our friends actually turned 29 as well earlier on in the month. And so I thought, why not do a little combined birthday party, because I didn't get to celebrate with the other friend as well. And so I had this idea of just really going all out. I spent days working on this party, and the last 2 days before it, I actually didn't sleep. Like, I went full 48 hours, no sleep. I did sleep between 5 and 6 a.m. on Jean's birthday. Like, I took a little break, an hour to sleep. And that was actually only because Jean came out of the room at like 5 to use the washroom, and he sees me on the floor, like blowing up balloons. He's like, Arielle, what are you doing? Please come to bed. You need to sleep. And I was like, yeah, I think you're right. I feel in my head that I'm a little bit tired. But I put a lot of work into the party. I made a 3-tier cake with homemade raspberry jam as a filling. I made really beautiful jello shots. I did a baked brie, a charcuterie platter. I decorated the whole apartment. I went out and I got the helium number balloons. And I also worked really hard on gifts for our other 2 friends who had birthdays. I made them all homemade gifts. So you guys might remember, but I have a shelf where I propagate plants. I've been propagating them since the summer. And so I took some of those plants and I planted them in little planters, and I got like a decorative pot, and I put the plants in the decorative pots. I also made huge jars of homemade granola. I made a jar filled with homemade hot chocolate bombs. What else? I got them some battery-powered candles, all the new candles that I got. Hopefully you guys will see if you saw my apartment tour, like the flickering lights. Those are all battery-powered candles that I'm absolutely in love with, which might seem strange, but generally speaking, I don't really like fragrance. I don't think it's great for you to, smell chemical fragrance. So I don't typically like candles that aren't made with like really quality ingredients. So I still like the flickering of candles, and that's why I have all these new battery powered candles. But yeah, I gave them that. Oh, and matching mugs. And so yeah, I just put like an insane amount of effort into this party. And I definitely regretted it a little bit, because I've talked about this a couple times on my channel, and I think you'll really resonate with this if you yourself are a host or a hostess, because I love to host. But people who don't regularly host don't understand the amount of time and money that goes into throwing a party. And it's evident in people showing up very late, people leaving very early, like people only staying for an hour, people coming empty-handed, not wanting to participate in any games or festivities, showing no enthusiasm. And so I was honestly really, really disappointed actually by how the party went. And I realized that I can't, again, like I said, I really love to give, and I love to be the creator of happiness. Like, I love to provide a space and a night and food and an ambiance for people to have a good time. But when people don't want to contribute like their happiness or their positivity or show up on time or stay for longer than an hour, it really makes you feel like, why did I even bother? Why did I stay up for 40 hours straight preparing for this party, And so, yeah, it really irked me. It really irked me that people showed up at like 9, 9:30, 10, and then left at 11, 11:30, 12. We didn't play any games. People weren't very enthusiastic. It felt kind of crappy, to be honest. And one thing that surprised me as well is that, again, this is what I'm saying, is I don't think people understand like the cost and the time that goes into throwing a party, is that it really surprised me that every single person showed up empty-handed, except for one person who brought 2 bags of chips. And I had already bought chips, right? And so we didn't open their chips. And I noticed them at the end of the night when they left at like 11:30. They actually took the bags of chips that they brought back home with them. I was like, who does that? And then another person asked me what they could bring. I was like, oh, well, I'm making all the food, so no worries if you want to just bring a bottle of wine. And so when they said, yeah, no problem, I'll bring a bottle of wine, I didn't go out and buy more wine because I assumed they would bring it. And they didn't bring the wine. And I was like, okay, that is so strange to say you'll bring something and then not bring it. And then the other people, yeah, like literally showed up empty-handed, which is just so crazy to me, which like I don't want to be demanding or, ungrateful of people coming, but I just do think that there definitely is social etiquette. Like there's common courtesy that you probably should respect if you're going to a party. I don't know. Like I would have been fine actually if they didn't bring anything, but at least they stayed and had a good time. And just, yeah, it was just a combination of all of these things that made me feel like, yeah, people didn't really appreciate the party. So definitely a lesson learned. I will be a lot less open to throwing parties for people who I think aren't as interested in like having a good time. I'm slowly learning that. Like as I said, it's so scary to get older, especially as someone who films themselves. Like I'm always looking at how I'm changing and how I'm aging. But also I really appreciate all the life lessons that I learn as I get older. And what I'm learning when it comes to hosting is that you have to know your audience and know your friends and know the people in your life. And some people are worth it. Some people are not worth it. And for myself especially, like I can't just give to everyone and every cause and every moment in life and go above and beyond for people. That's another thing that really surprised me as well, is like these gifts that I had given. I didn't get a text after or anything being like, oh, I love the plant. This is where I put it in my apartment. Or, oh, I had a hot chocolate this morning. So great. Thanks again. And that is so bizarre to me because when someone gives me a gift, that's the first thing I do is I'm like, I set it up. I take a picture. I'm like, look, it's so cute. Thank you again for the plant. And even my dad, like my best friend got him this really cute coaster for his office, like coffee coaster. And he uses it every single day. And like 2 or 3 times now, he's sent her a picture being like, I have your coffee coaster. I love it. Thanks so much again. And, it's again what I'm talking about when it comes to community is when people go above and beyond for you, when people show you that they love you or try and care for you, like you have to contribute to that community by showing your appreciation. And does that make sense when I'm talking about community? Like it's a flow. You can't just expect one person to give and never get anything in return. And I'm not talking about anything physical, but even just a message being like, hi, I love this gift. I appreciate it. Thank you. So my point here is I have to do a better job, I think, of knowing my audience and knowing who is worth my time and who isn't, which takes life experience and time. And yeah, this is such a mixed podcast. I'm sorry, you guys. I feel all over the place. But I wanted to get to some of your questions, actually. I got so many, and they were really good. So if you guys aren't following me on Instagram, you should, because normally on Saturday or Sunday, I try and post a little question box on my Instagram story. That way you can ask me any questions you have or leave me any comments. The first 2 questions I have are from Coffee Queen, and she asks, can you describe the Christmas vibe / December vibe in Paris? And what are your Christmas plans? What do people eat on Christmas? So the Christmas vibe in December in Paris is not my favorite. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. You have to remember that I'm coming from the Canadian culture, like that's where I was raised, where winter is a time of celebration, Christmas is a time of celebration, and also you have like the North American spirit, holiday spirit, where every house is decorated, all the stores are decorated. It also, not so much anymore, but used to snow all the time in the winter when I was a kid. And so there was this real Christmas spirit. And when it gets colder outside, you really have a feeling that you want to, sit by the fire and get cozy and spend time with friends and family. And it is like a holiday season where people really come together and it's really fun. And it's somewhat similar in Paris in that people do, like as soon as it starts to get colder and closer to Christmas, people start having raclettes together or making tartiflettes together and enjoying these shared meals. But there's a lot less of a focus, I think, on decorations than you would have in a place like the US or in Canada. And I think in general, like people celebrate Christmas, but not to the same extent. I've celebrated Christmas now over the past 10 years with a couple different French families, and there is like a Christmas meal, but it's not as big, I would say, as in North America. There's not so much, like there's no heavy focus on Christmas gifts and on Santa. Like it's definitely more toned down than what I personally grew up with in Toronto. But in Paris specifically, you do have a lot less decorations. You don't really have a lot of snow. You rarely have snow, actually. And most of the Christmas decorations are on the really big stores, like the luxury stores downtown near the Champs-Élysées, or the big department stores like Galeries Lafayette and Printemps. And in the stores as well, you have like a lot of different Christmas packages and gifts, and there's definitely a lot of decor in the stores. But yeah, outside of that, I wouldn't say there's a lot of decorations. Sometimes like some of the arrondissements will have a street where they line it with lights. Or also there's the Christmas market, which, again, I hate to hate on Paris, but the Paris Christmas market is just one of the worst. I hate to say that, but it's so crowded, especially in the evenings. Like, you are jam-packed like a can of sardines. And it's also very commercial. Like, it feels like a fair. They have rides, you know, and lots of different stands selling. I mean, in Paris, you don't really have like the artisanal stands. I used to live in Aix-en-Provence and in Grenoble, and in those Christmas markets, you definitely did have local artisans who would come, they would rent a booth, and they would showcase their homemade jewelry, or their, not homemade, but like artisanally made jewelry, or meats, like cured meats, or nougat, and chocolates and teas and woodworks. Like there was definitely more of a focus on handcrafted artisanal products, whereas in Paris it's definitely much more commercial. Like it's definitely more along the lines of the made in China souvenirs that you kind of see all over the place. You just see that in stands in the market. And you do have access to the like traditional French Christmas foods, I would say, like a tartiflette or a raclette, but it's definitely more fast foody than it would be in a restaurant or something like that. So, oh, and sometimes they do have a little skating rink in the Christmas market as well, but it's very small. It's like very crowded. So I would say there's definitely Christmas vibes in Paris, but it's not as Christmassy as in other cities. One of my favorite cities that I've ever spent Christmas in France is Grenoble. Sorry, that was a really weird way to say that. Grenoble. You have the mountains as the landscape, and there's definitely a lot more snow in Grenoble than in Paris. And the Christmas market is much more authentic and Christmassy than in Paris. You have vin chaud all over the place. You have oysters, and just, I would say it's much more authentic than the Christmas market in Paris, for example. That being said, I did just get back, so I haven't taken the time to go out and explore all the decorations, and I will do that, so I can maybe give you more of an update on the next podcast. But there's definitely Christmas decorations and Christmas cheer in Paris, but not to the same extent, I think, in other cities, or as in North America. Next, we have a question from Scott, who says, how much English and French do you and Jean speak with each other? 50-50, 70-30, etc. Jean and I speak 100% French, which is a little bit problematic because I work in English, my best friend is English, my family's English, so I speak a lot of English. The only time I ever speak French is with Jean or with our friends, and I speak a very lazy French with Jean. I don't focus on vocabulary. I don't make my brain work. Like, if I can't think of what something's called, I'm like, ce truc là-bas, da, da, da. And truc is like that thing. So we speak 100% French, but I wouldn't say it's great quality French, at least on my end. And even when Jean hears me talk to other people, like on the phone, if I'm talking to Sophie, who's French, he looks at me, he's like, you sound like you're, you're at the post office. Like, you're sounding so formal. I'm like, it's just because with you, I speak such lazy French. But yeah, I find that really hard to have Jean as the only person I speak French to. I really miss having French colleagues. And I do feel that my French has definitely weakened over time ever since I started working from home and I am my only colleague. Ida asks, will you always live in Paris? No, I will not always live in Paris. Shaw and I are kind of giving ourselves a timeline. I would say maybe 2 or 3 more years. But we do, I mention this all the time, but we do definitely want to open a coffee shop. And I think we want to do that in Toronto. And like I said, for the majority of this podcast, is that I'm looking for a place with a greater sense of community and support. And I don't really feel that in Paris. I feel way too stressed. And I feel lonely a lot. So yeah, Paris is definitely not our forever city. We're enjoying it for now, but definitely not forever. Kate says, will you be doing a Christmas walk around in Paris? Yes, I will be doing that. I have to make my list. It's hard because I don't have a camera that films great in the evening. And the evening is like the best time to film Paris because you have all the big lights from the department stores and other things that are lit up. So I will try to do a walk around. That'll be coming maybe in 2 weeks. I have to have enough time for Jean and I to like visit every area and properly film it. And then Sharon says, does it snow a lot in Paris? It does not snow. We did get quite a bit of snow actually like the week before I came home, so I didn't even get to experience it. But typically in the winter, Paris will have maybe 1 or 2 days of snow and that's it. It's definitely not common to have snow in Paris. And the snow we do get doesn't stick to the ground. It just snows and then it melts. There's definitely other cities in France that have a lot more snow. You need to get closer to the Alps. Like I was saying, Grenoble, there was always a ton of snow. In Alsace, there's snow. Anything, not necessarily in the north, sorry. Map. The east. The southeast of France, I would say near the Alps, is going to have a lot of snow. But yeah, definitely something I miss. I do think that snow is like directly encourages the Christmas spirit, which is why I think when I was a kid, we had all this snow in Toronto and you would spend your afternoons building snowmen and having snowball fights, and feeling chilly and coming in and, taking off your snow pants and having a hot chocolate and sitting by the fire. Like, I think all of that makes you enjoy the holiday season more, which I think is why you don't have that same Christmas spirit in Paris. But yeah, to answer your question, no, there's not enough snow, not a lot of snow in Paris. But yeah, I think that's the end of today's podcast. I'm sorry, you guys. It was a little bit all over the place. It's always hard when I haven't filmed in a week or two to sit back down and like get my body and mind back into filming mode. So bear with me. I have a couple more Greece vlogs for you guys. Jean and I went to Costco for Black Friday, and I have a couple more vlogs as well that we filmed that I can't wait to show you guys. Oh my gosh, I have a vintage designer haul coming as well, which will be fun. So yeah, lots of good videos coming, and I'm very excited to be back and to be back to also like regular filming and work schedule in Paris. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast, and I'll see you very soon.